Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rowell Report. President Trump's team is in full damage control mode for the bombing of a girls' school in Minab, Iran, in which more than 170 individuals were killed, primarily girls between the ages of 6 and 12, and some teachers. They also did a kind of a double tap strike where they killed parents who rushed to the scene to try to rescue their child. So this is something that we had seen frequently in the Israel's attacks on Gaza, these double tap where they would attack maybe reporters, and then people would run to try to rescue them, and then a second strike would come to take out those who were coming to come to their aid. So this seems to be a well-used and well-oiled strategy within the U.S. military. So anyway, here we have an image of the funeral for the children. So you can see many people came out to remember the children who were killed. And so let's go into what is the damage control that President Trump is trying to carry out. So here we have step number one, the crisis management. Why are we in crisis management? The media picked up the story. The facts are impossible to deny, and people in Capitol Hill started to speak about this and get on board with the investigation and concern about the actions of the United States in Iran. So why did it become undeniable that the U.S. carried out this strike? So here we have these tomahawk missiles that fell on these buildings, and one of them fell directly on the school. And of course, there was a second strike, what they call the double tap strike, moments later. So let's go back here to this whole damage control. So the first thing that President Trump said was it was Iran who did it, and he mentioned that many countries have tomahawk missiles, and then most recently said, I don't know. So it is getting impossible for President Trump to kick the can down the road any further. The narratives that the Trump administration have been putting out are wearing thin, and the evidence is mounting that this was a U.S. attack on this girls' school that resulted in the deaths of, more than 170. Apparently it's around 177 at this point. Of course, if there are individuals who are critical, that could increase the number of dead. So then now what are we going to do? Of course, we're going to build fear of the regime. So they put out this story about an imminent threat of drone attacks on California. And shortly afterwards, political authorities in California, whether Governor Newsom, here we have Governor Newsom in CNN, he's denying that this is an imminent threat. And of course, the FBI memo that sent out was unvetted and unverified. Of course, this is more narrative creation. The FBI is essentially an instrument of the President of the United States, so they're going to slow leak these phony narratives. And we go back, why are they doing that? So we're trying to we're trying to build up fear of the regime, and with the idea that somehow if we fear the regime enough, that we will be okay with the slaughter of girls at a girls' school. Also, we have the EU sanctioning not the United States for these attacks, especially the attack on the girls' school, but sanctioning Iran and putting out news or information about repression and human rights violations in Iran. So you can see the president, the FBI, the EU are all working lockstep to try to salvage President Trump's reputation. So we have more story control here. So we have the CPAC leader, Mike Schlapp, basically saying, I'll put all these links below so you can go to those articles if you like, basically saying better dead than in a burqa. So here we go back. Also, through the news that is being put out, we're getting the idea that all these attacks, no matter how bloody, no matter how seemingly unacceptable, should be accepted because it's a small price to pay to stop this murderous regime that is spreading terrorism throughout the Middle East, more narratives. So one thing that will be helping President Trump in this situation is to shift the focus away from the scandal towards oil prices that are rising, gasoline prices, and inflation concerns. So if we can get the public to focus on what's down the pipeline, maybe in 30 days, possibly people will forget about this attack. And we also have more narratives being pumped out. We have the UN inquiry on the supposed deportation of Ukrainian children to Russia, and coming up with the conclusion that this was a war crime. So we want the public to focus on this war crime over in Ukraine, something which is still unproven, but yet the UN has come out with this finding exactly in the moment that President Trump needed them to rescue his reputation by focusing everyone. The war criminal is not President Trump or the United States. The war criminals are in Russia, they're in Iran, wherever. So then we go down finally. So if this investigation continues on, what will happen? Then we will get more investigation. President Trump will begin to deny that he was the decision maker in this attack. They will find some 2 or 3 star general to fire to take the fall for this attack on the girls' school. And then the question really is, how high must President Trump go to restore his reputation? And does he need to fire Pete Hegseth? Does he need to get rid of Raising Cane, General Kane? Who does he need to get rid of in order to restore his reputation and to avoid taking the blame and eventually being called to The Hague for war crimes trials? So anyway, this is a situation for President Trump. He's in full damage control mode. Where will this go from this point? Will the media drop this story in a couple of weeks and move on to another story? Will Capitol Hill exchange prosecution of this attack for some favor, maybe the legalization of some of those who entered our country illegally. What will the Democrats demand to drop this topic? So the Democrats have this in their hand. Now they can push it at some distance to gain some political favors. So where will that go? It's hard to say. But at this point, it doesn't seem that the attack on the girls, the justice for those individuals is really the point of all this media coverage and of the final arrangement that will come in Washington regarding this attack. So what can we have in the future? Like I say, I think somebody will be let go, and it may not be an actual removal. It just may be shifting from one chair to another, or where one, remove one hat and put another hat on an individual. So in the case of Kristi Noem, many people reported that she was fired. She was actually promoted. So someone like, someone in the military could be let go from this Operation Epic Fury, and they could wind up in Washington at an actually higher position than they currently occupy. So anyway, that is my report regarding President Trump's damage control. And here are the steps. I'll put these steps in the description below, along with the informational links, so you can go to all these articles if you like. And if you like this video, please hit the like button, share, and subscribe. And I look forward to seeing you back for the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.